Alright, so this video is a follow-up to my video on Far Cry 5. This time I'm solely focusing on the DLCs in this game. So that's the Dead Living Zombies DLC, the Lost on Mars DLC, and the Hours of Darkness DLC. At least in terms of like the story DLC. And I just finished the last bit of Hours of Darkness twice. I played all of these DLCs from start to finish twice. So I'm ready to go into detail on all the additional content for this game that's pretty damn good as far as like standalone DLCs are concerned. For reference, this is actually like my first time playing the DLCs for Far Cry 5 because usually I played the main campaign whenever I was burnt out on gaming. But I thought since I had some time before we're swamped with a boatload of games later this year, I'd go ahead and squeeze these in and see what it's all about. But yeah, let's get started. I'll go in reverse order of completion since I'm just naturally a contrarian, you know? So we'll start with Hours of Darkness. This one straight up just feels like a Vietnam version of Far Cry 3, I'm gonna be real with you. You basically play as a rogue soldier after being stranded behind enemy lines, and you're forced to make your way through this much smaller, much more narrow jungle-like map, and you have to rescue any POWs or prisoners of war along the way. If that doesn't sound like Far Cry 3, at least in terms of like the atmosphere, then I don't know what does. Also because of the fact that stealth is a bigger priority in this DLC, which is also closer to Far Cry 3, at least to me. You get these different stealth bonuses and perks for chaining stealth kills, or using stealth to quietly make your way to extraction. Matter of fact, the game's constantly trying to force you to play stealth because the enemies at the slightest whiff of combat will swarm your location. And if you get alerted, this isn't like the base game where you can John Rambo your way through them. Your arsenal is specifically suited for stealthy kills, or I guess silent kills, with silenced weapons and long-range rifles like marksman rifles and snipers. And also again, those stealth bonuses. You don't have backup plans A, B, and C like the base game if you get caught while taking out commandos or destroying AA guns. Like, I feel like the allowed content should be seen as sort of like a last resort, since they swarm you so easily and call for backup the instant they engage you, which is pretty realistic if you think about it. Like, you're solo making your way through this jungle of trained killers with wildlife all around you that's ready to attack you as well, and it just feels very grounded. Now, to be clear though, if you want to play like a possessed maniac and bull rush your way through the map, then you can do that, because they still have the reliable AKs and MGs and RPGs, and even different airstrikes if you want to play that way. And if you're playing it like on the normal mode, then playing it like that half and half stealthy and loud combat is actually pretty fun. But in my eyes, it's not the optimal way to play. Mainly since like the vibe and atmosphere is telling you not to, especially with like the propaganda horns and the setup lookouts. It really feels like you're in a life or death situation, so playing cautiously is the best playstyle. Also, if you play like you're rushing through the map, you might be pretty good at dealing with hordes of Vietnamese soldiers hunting your ass down and helos is pestering you, but the companions you're meant to rescue, they don't have that same dog in them that you do. And if your companions die in this DLC, they permanently die. Lights out. Capiche? And for some reason, with the surrounding war chaos and terror all around you, with explosions in your ear and like dogfights from resistance over there, it actually feels like you failed your companions, so it genuinely feels like a loss. I know this sounds a bit melodramatic, but it's the truth. Like on my second playthrough on hard, I tried my ass off to keep all my companions alive because it felt like shit when you're supposed to lead them to safety and you lead them to their death. Also, because on hard, you get one primary weapon slot and one medkit slot. So if you want to feel like you're in the trenches with your companions, then this will do that. And yeah, this DLC's runtime is pretty brief. Even if you do all the activities in the map like I did, it's probably going to take you about 3 hours more or less. But it's a great 3 hours. And after you complete it, you can go back and play on different modes and do different challenges. So yeah, if I had to give this DLC a rating based on my 2 playthroughs, I'd give it like a solid 9 out of 10. The only real downside is I wish the map was a bit bigger with more activities and stealth bonuses. Besides that, I highly recommend Hours of Darkness. Next up is the Lost on Mars DLC, which is literally the complete opposite of Hours of Darkness in every way possible. The weapons, gadgets, enemies, terrain obviously being on Mars, which is both good and bad for reasons I'll get into. But first, a quick summary on the story of Lost on Mars. You play as one of the main story companions from the base game, Nick Rye, who's transported to Mars and works alongside Herc, who is I think he's a smaller character from the main game. And your goal is to save Earth from an alien invasion with the help of Herc and Anne, which is like the artificial intelligence that guides him. And that's basically it. That's basically the story of this DLC. This DLC, it shares like broad, I guess, sci-fi DNA with The Martian and Project Hail Mary from Andy Weir. The vibe is completely different, obviously, and ridiculously goofy, but overall the shell of the story is similar enough. With that being said, there's one thing I absolutely cannot stand about this DLC, which is the dialogue. I'm not even gonna waste my breath and explain to you why. Let me just show you a clip of what I'm talking about.
What I said, Migo. Queen's gonna have that energy core with her, and we need to get it back.
Killing her offspring will draw the queen out.
Offspring? You mean babies, right? I don't want to kill babies.
These ain't babies, okay? They're tiny little monsters, man. This is 100% guilt-free baby killing, man, like baby carrots or veal. Besides, it's the only way we can draw the queen out and get the energy core. All right, buddy. Brace yourself. You're about to pop a bro boner here. Check it out. Your bad boy Robocop here is fitted with a whole punch of lasers that these spacecraft don't stand no chance against. And this sexy, delicious, rock-hard body was built to last all kinds of physical and verbal abuse. We're linked up, man, so you can just tell me where to go and I'll follow, man. I won't even argue, like, ever. Unless you say something about monkeys. And if we find ourselves in a pickle and shit gets real intense, you just use me, man. I'll draw these suckers away with my jaw-dropping dance moves and such. Now, I know you're impressed with how impressive I've become, but don't let how impressive I am distract you from the fact that we gotta give our human compadres the heroes they deserve. We need to find more energy cores, man. I think there's another antenna nearby, so let's go.
How the hell did you get mixed up in all this?
Man, that's not important. What is important is that you understand how much danger we're all in, because I didn't, okay? I fucked up. I didn't really realize. I tried to impress Anne by taking care of this all myself, and where to get me? Got my damn body snatched and sprinkled all over damn Mars. It's probably my fault for telling her that I was Earth's greatest champion. I see that now, but come on, man. I was trying to get something. So all I'm trying to tell you, Nick, is that you can't be a dummy about this, okay? You can't be thinking you're some new hot kid on the block. You gotta stay humble, man. Stay focused. You gotta be smart, man, like old Herky.
Do you hear yourself? I'm stuck doing this because you're not smart. You're actually really, really dumb, Herc.
I was dumb, Nick. I was dumb. Past tense. And for like a very short period of time, I'm talking 17 seconds max. And that's way less time than most people spend being dumb, which is a scientific fact. Which means that it is scientifically impossible for me to do anything dumb for like a long, long time, man. Like statistically, that's a fact. Right? Right? Nick?
Listen, if you like that over-the-top, enthusiastically wacky goofball dialogue, then you probably also like games like High on Life, which is fine, but I personally want to smash my head into the wall if I gotta keep listening to quirky quips or, I don't know, like really childish sex jokes. It's alright if it's done in moderation, but dude, I'm not joking. Like every 5 minutes is a 1-minute dialogue of Herc tripping out on acid, shooting the shit with Anne the AI. Other than the dialogue, I mean, the story is okay, I guess. I'm gonna be honest, most of the stories on Far Cry 5, whether it's the base game or the DLCs, are just mediocre besides Hours of Darkness. The gameplay is really where this game shines, and that goes doubly for this DLC. It uses a similar currency system to the base game where killing enemies grants you a resource called like Hemolium or something, I don't know. But it's basically the resource you use to craft new weapon blueprints or purchase consumables after clearing the core relays of Arcanids. Unlike the base game where you're mostly fighting people with guns, the Arcanids force you to constantly stay moving and hover over them or target the weak spots, juggling different enemy types, and actually making use of your gadgets. And it's tough too, I won't lie, because you got to deal with like the Queen Arcanid, and you got to deal with her first so that she won't spawn those like little ticking ones. On top of that, you gotta make sure that you keep the crowd control of the regular Arcanids in check. And on top of that, you gotta watch out for the heavy armor Arcanids that literally just don't die. I swear to God, they're immune to like 80% of the shots I dump in them. And it's just really difficult to manage considering there's constantly so much going on. And the fact that there's like these different forms of attacks from each Arcanid. You better be locked in if you're clearing out stations or repairing stations or clearing out nests. It doesn't really matter on hard mode, which is the only difficulty I play since it forces you to use everything in your kit. And while it can be overwhelming, it never feels unfair, which I appreciate. If I died, I knew it was because I didn't use my abilities enough, like the disappearing cloak or the blocker. Damn, but I don't think I can say that on YouTube. I might have to censor that. You see what I mean by the goofiness though? Like, oh my God, call it a blocker. So funny, haha, I-12. Anyways, the other thing I really like about this DLC is how much mobility they give you with the jetpack and wingsuit. It's one of my favorite things about any game, really, is if they either have a jetpack or a wingsuit available to glide off of high buildings instead of taking elevators or fast traveling. And on top of that, if the jetpacks, if it has a hover feature or maybe like wall bouncing features, it's just icing on the cake. Also, all the weapons, they're fun to use. Even the basic as like 9mm equivalent pistol you get from the start is really fun to use. Half of it's because like the sound effects and like the weightiness you feel is just really good. It just goes to show how much sound design and like sound effects can affect the actual gameplay, because some of those heavier Arcanids just love eating bullets for lunch, but it didn't affect how much I liked using the weapons because the audio from each weapon was so satisfying to listen to.
Yes! Oh my goodness, you did it, man, you did it! You avenged me and my wiener! That's brotherly love, man.
And each weapon has its own style as well, so it's not like the base game where you can have two weapons and they're basically like the same weapon with a slight variation to the fire rate and damage. They're all pretty different on like a fundamental level. There's only one laser pistol, there's only one rocket-like pistol, shotgun rifle, automatic rifle. They're all just different, so it makes using each weapon a different experience. Just to wrap up for this DLC, it's really close to like a 9 out of 10 in terms of like the actual gameplay. It felt like every crazy idea that almost made it into the base game, like energy weapons and jetpacks, was put into this DLC and then thrown that into like a colorful sci-fi setting, which is probably its biggest strengths. Then you have the story itself, which is decent enough so it doesn't add or take away from the experience. Then you have the dialogue, which is so unbearable that I have to mute my headphones because the conversation between the characters is just unbearable to listen to. So obviously that takes away from the final score. It takes away a whole point. So I'm gonna rate Lost on Mars an 8 out of 10. Almost everything else kept me hooked and I had fun with both playthroughs, but not joking, my thumb was starting to hurt because of how much I was having to mute my headphones. It's still a really fun and quality DLC overall. It was just weighed down by one aspect that was really frustrating. And last but not least, we have the Dead Living Zombies DLC, which is my favorite of the 3 DLCs. Just pure, unadulterated, intensely unserious zombie killing fun. It can't get much better than that, honestly. Like, if you're someone who, at least like me, loved Black Ops 1 zombies and Black Ops 2 zombies, this will be right up your alley. What this DLC is a compilation of 7 different action movie-like zombie films that you can run through once in like the basic mode. So you're just going through the tutorial mode, I guess, on your first run. Then after that is the real challenge called Score Attack, where you got to get as high a score as possible and completing each level as fast as possible to unlock different bonuses on future playthroughs. And at the highest tier unlocked for each level, you get cosmetics for the base game, which is also really great. When additional content or DLCs, they have like challenges for stuff like in the main campaign rather than just outright buying that stuff, like some of Ubisoft's later games and other remakes where all you do is just buy everything outright and gain pay-to-win advantages. Like, you don't have to earn anything. Let me stop before that starts to piss me off. Sorry, if you want to know about that, go watch my AC Black Flag resync video for that whole mess. Before I rate the DLCs overall, I'm going to rate each individual level. So first we'll start with Fields of Terror, A+. While all these levels sort of feel like Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2 zombies, this one especially does, with like the farm creepy atmosphere, but also really simplistic objectives. Really just objectives singular. You're really just taking out these mutation stations across the level and fighting different zombie types across most of it, but to me that doesn't make it any less fun. And like I said, there's a basic mode and then there's a score attack mode. You can run through score attack as many times as you want and try to get as high a score as possible, so it has a lot of replay value. Next is Burned Bridges. I'd mark it at a solid B. Also really good, just a little too linear, I guess. That's the only reason it's B. I really like the Sasquatch, I guess, like boss fight, if you want to call it that. Just the most random boss fight of all time, but it's cool. Then there's Undying Love, C-. I didn't even bother with the score attack mode. It wasn't for me, I'm gonna be honest with you. But that's fine because everything else was to my liking, especially the next one, which is Escape the Rooftop. This is it's like an A++++. I don't even know. I really can't tell you how much I feed off of these like rooftop survival type of zombie levels and zombie modes. Probably one of the top 5 most dopamine inducing maps in any zombie games. I don't know what it is about being on a rooftop and having to like survive and train zombies. Something about that, it unlocks something in my brain that's like, that is the most addicting thing in any video game ever. Honestly, I just wish it was longer. I wish they gave you the opportunity to actually play it like COD Zombies, where there's wave of zombies and you have to get as high a score as possible. Killer Climate is like a B+ for me. I really like how much it opens up in the map. The best part about it though is probably the Blood Dragon fight at the end. Unfortunately, it is kind of short, even though you get the best arsenal in this level from explosive arrows and the AKM, my favorite full auto in this game. The only real downside again is like the short time limit, but you can always again run through it again on score attack and try to get as high a score as possible, so it's not that bad. The Fast and the Fiendish is also at like a B, but for different reasons and burned bridges. I just wish that the entire level was just driving. It was a nice switch up, but instead they switch halfway back to the standard destroy mutation stations level. That's really my only gripe with it. Coincidentally, like Laboratory of the Dead is the exact same thing as well. You start off on a jet ski, and I wish that you stayed on the jet ski. Maybe they could have had zombie fish or something, I don't know. I mean, I've seen weirder, but because they split it halfway, going back to the same basic mission type where you gotta destroy the mutation stations, that's the main reason why I rated it as a B as well. Again, I can't stress this enough. The saving grace for all of these is the basic mode and then the score attack mode, which really makes it feel like a replayable minigame. And yeah, with that, you can see why this is my favorite of the 3 DLCs with as high replay value as it has. That's one of the main reasons why I made the first video on Far Cry 5 was the replayability. So this DLC for me gets a 9.5 out of 10. I have to say, I was very surprised by how much I like these DLCs overall. I thought I might have played them once and just been like, I don't really need to do a follow-up video after all. They're just average like I expected. Nah, they're fire. They're pretty damn good and they're pretty damn fun. They're also different in tone and length. I spent about, I want to say like 20 to 24 hours. Yes, you heard that right. I spent like 24 hours on this 3 DLCs right here. To be fair, Lost on Mars on hard mode, I think it took me like 7 to 8 hours the first time, and then the second time I think it took me like 6 hours, so that's where most of the time probably went. But I tell you what, this definitely cements this game as the best gameplay that Ubisoft has ever put out. You can fight me on that, but that's just the truth. I don't know where this Ubisoft went, but I want them back. Not the Skull and Bones Ubisoft, the Avatars, whatever it's called, Ubisoft, the Star Wars Outlaws making Ubisoft, but like the Ubisoft that made fun, replayable open worlds down to a T. The games they put out now are like this squeaky clean resolution shine that every game has now, but it misses that crucial addicting gameplay factor that their older games had. Actually, most of these bigger studios now have this problem. It's not just Ubisoft, but we're talking about Ubisoft in this case, and I want the old Ubisoft back so bad, man. I know you can tell by the videos on the channel as well. That's 3 Ubisoft videos in a row. And honestly, in the last like couple months, 4 Ubisoft videos out of like 8. Honestly, I'm about to do a Far Cry 3 replay and like do a video on that next month just because I miss their older games so much. People act like Ubisoft never had a good era. They definitely had a good era. But I don't know what happened with this modern era. Actually, you know what? It started with all that. What was that? The NFT stuff? It really started there when they really went downhill. Like it was sort of gradually declining in quality for their open world games. But when that happened in like 2020 or something, whoa, that's whenever, I mean, they lost the plot. They really lost the plot. So ever since then, it's been downhill, but I love their older games. I do. They're really fun. They're not like my favorite games of all time, but this DLC shows what I love about them so much. Besides that, what do y'all think about Far Cry 5's DLCs? For me, I really enjoyed them, but I get for everyone, they might not feel the same way. If that's the case for you, then let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And yeah, anyways, that's it for me. I'll see you next time.